welcome back to the third episode of the Rebound. We got a special guest episode today. Say what's up, Matt.
What's up?
Alright, today we're going to be talking about overrated, underrated teams and players for the upcoming season. Starting off, we got the 76ers. Their team, do you think it's overrated or underrated? We're going to start with Matt.
I think it's probably overrated because, Joel Embiid should continue to get injured.
Yeah.
They lost Ben Simmons, even though Ben Simmons wasn't even playing to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even... Who else do they got? They got Tobias
Harden.
Harris. Wait, is Tobias Harris still in there?
Yeah, Harden.
Oh, well, yeah, they have Harden, but you know how Harden does.
He's a little old.
Inconsistent too.
And playoffs.
And yeah, he's not a playoff player. So I'd just say overall, overrated.
Stephen?
I would say that they're an underrated team just because of the scrutiny that they went under during, especially the playoff series, because of like how poorly Harden performs during the playoffs as opposed to the regular season. I think that all around, even though Joel Embiid heavily relies on his ability to get to the line to get his team ahead in most games that he plays, I still think that he has enough defense and enough offense in a big that can carry his team a long way. And I also think that their defense is very balanced around the team with Matisse, Tobias. You have Harden improving on defense even though with his age. Embiid, obviously amazing defender. Tyrese Maxey is a great hustler. So I think they're an underrated team.
So for me, yesterday I would have said underrated, but with after what Matt said, honestly, I'm going to go slightly overrated because last year, Trae Young was so good. He got into the playoffs with those free throws. The league saw that. They changed it a little bit. The refs called it differently. After Joel's 10 free throws a game around there, I think they'll change it. I think they'll blow the whistle a little less for him. They've already started with Harden. Harden's inconsistent, like Matt said. Joel will get hurt, like Matt said, to bounce back off that. Also, forgetting Tobias Harris just shows how important he was last season.
Right.
Not very much. So, for a player on that team, for overrated, underrated, Tyrese Maxey. I know he's kind of a ball-dominant guard. He's pretty young, though. What do we think? Overrated, underrated? He had a pretty good season.
So I'll start off with saying that I think that he is overrated because in games where he would show out, if you would look at the box score, it was not spread very well around the team. Harden would have under 20 points if Tyrese would have over 20.
Yeah.
His assist numbers were not that high. And I really think that he's more of an Anthony Simons type player where if he's going to go off, it's because nobody else is going to go off.
Matt?
I think he might be properly rated because
like
think about it. He's still young. He
I
still
like
has
that
a
a
lot
lot.
of room to grow and be potential.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a few years down the line, he'll be better at passing, at better assists, and he'll realize his mistakes at those.
I would say slightly overrated again because, like he said, you see a box score with Tyrese Maxey dropping 24. You see Harden had 7 points, and the rest of the team just wasn't out there. And maybe Tobias would have 12, Joel would have a couple, and all off free throws because he's not getting those touches. Just a ball-dominant guard, and the Sixers don't really need that. Joel is their star, and hopefully this year he'll recognize that and change his game. So second team, we're going to try and hold back our biases. We're going to go with the Chicago Bulls. Overrated, underrated, we're going to start with Stefan this time.
All right, so it's going to be hard to stop my bias a little bit with these jerseys that are hanging in my room. But I honestly believe that they are an underrated team because although they could not beat those good teams in the long run, they couldn't beat Milwaukee, they couldn't beat the Celtics, they couldn't beat all these above
Any good
500 teams. They beat the Celtics once. And we beat the Bucks once in the playoffs.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm going to say that they're underrated because we have seen maybe 10, 15 games with that team fully healthy. That's many true. People underrate Lonzo Ball's effect on the game and the chemistry that he already had with everybody on that team with just 1 year in the city of Chicago. And one thing that I do think will help this team is when I watched the Chicago Bulls play, a big part of their play was getting out in transition. And because of the fast players that you have in transition, you have AC and you have Zach getting out in transition for lobs and easy finishes at the rim, people will just foul him before they get there. But now with these new clear path fouls, I think that it's going to help them a lot.
Matt, piggyback?
I honestly think that they are pretty underrated as well. Because think about it, they they just recently got a whole bunch of new people on their team that weren't on their team before. So
Andre
their chemistry,
Drummond.
Andre Drummond. So their chemistry is not the highest right now. Once they get those practices in, once they get that outside team chemistry in, they can improve a lot, and they could definitely beat those higher teams like the Lakers.
Oh, for sure.
The Lakers are not
The
that.
Lakers, yeah.
But like stuff like the Milwaukee Bucks or even some like the Golden State Warriors, I could see them beating them and going far in the playoffs.
I agree with the rest of them. I think they're underrated just because of how they ended the season. It doesn't show what they were as a team. They had a lot of injured players. They're going to bounce back, and I agree they could beat some of those good teams. If one of those players has an off night, the Bulls will take advantage. And even if it's not an off night, the Bulls always stick in games, and you have DeMar as a closer, and you have Levine as a closer, and hopefully Kobe White will mold into something off the bench.
He's been on the block trade.
Yeah, he's been on the trade block. Hopefully they get something for him that they need, but I don't really know what they need right now because they're a pretty good team, underrated team. And then a player from that team, let's talk about Andre Drummond because he's the newest player on the team. Do we think he's overrated or underrated, the greatest rebounder of all time?
Overrated.
Overrated?
I really think he's overrated. The greatest rebounder of all time is Dennis Rodman. That's just my personal opinion. It's just I think it's Dennis Rodman, and especially at his age now, he's not going to be up there like that. Like, what has he done for the teams he's been on for the past year or so?
He's been coming off the bench for a bit. He hasn't been getting a lot of minutes recently, but hopefully the Bulls will give him a bigger role. But I see what you're saying. He doesn't really have much minutes. He hasn't been really doing much. He's been hustling. He's been getting his rebounds. And that's all really you want from Andre Drummond. It's all you can really expect. But I agree, overrated. People acting like it's this huge acquisition. He might take minutes from Vooch. I don't think. Vucevic is too good for that team. What do you think as the Bulls fan?
So, Andre Drummond, I was just looking at his stats for the past few years, and I noticed he had a minutes decrease last year when he was on the Nets, but he still managed to grab 10 boards a game, which is really all that he's there for. And, many people will say that we're very, very wrong in calling Andre Drummond the greatest rebounder of all time.
Check the stats.
If you check the stats, his rebound numbers are they're incredible, and especially in an era where it's so much harder to grab rebounds when you think about it, because of the amount of people taking three-pointers and the amount of missed three-pointers that go into mid-range, near the three-point line.
He has to be all over the court
with so much more velocity that he has that ability where he's a versatile big that can go anywhere on the court and just body anybody there, really, because of how big and strong he is, and just grab a rebound. So I believe that he is underrated because people just see him as second to Dennis Rodman.
I think we're going to talk a lot about Andre Drummond on this show because we are the rebound, and we love rebounds around here. And the debate about him being the greatest rebounder could just be an episode by itself because we love Andre Drummond around here. All right, so next we're going to go to the Celtics. They finished off the season losing in the finals to Steph Curry. Overrated, underrated, it's hard to really grasp. They just gained Malcolm Brogdon and Gallinari. What do you think?
You want to start off that?
Sure. I think they are overrated.
I like it.
As a Knicks fan, I hate them. It's just like Jason Tatum has his off games. So does Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
And what center do they have? Daniel Theus right now?
They traded him. They have 60-year-old Al Horford.
Exactly. That's my point.
Jason Tatum, like you said, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they're always inconsistent, and sometimes it's just one player with 6, one player with 30, and then the rest of the surrounding pieces. I don't know how they're going to fit in. Hopefully they bench Marcus Smart and start Malcolm Brogdon, because Malcolm Brogdon plays good enough defense, and they missed a passer this whole time. And that's what they needed. They tried Kemba Walker, not a passer. Marcus Smart, not a passer. Kyrie Irving was a scorer. I'm going to go with overrated as well because I don't think they're going to get close to the finals next year.
So I'm going to say that they're properly rated because, they had a really good playoffs run last year. They beat some really good teams. I don't think you can underestimate them sweeping the Brooklyn Nets in the first round. I really don't think you can underrate that. And especially with the new acquisitions of Malcolm Brogdon, whether he comes off the bench or is a starter, he's going to have an immediate impact to the team, I think, averaging at least 15, 18 points per game, depending on whether he gets more or less minutes than Marcus Smart. But, even though the numbers aren't always there for Gallinari, his veteran presence cannot be underestimated as well, and I think he's going to add a lot to the team.
All right, and then overrated, underrated player on the team. We already talked about how Jason Tatum we think is a little bit overrated last episode, so I'm gonna go with Jaylen Brown, overrated, underrated. I'm gonna start this off because I have a strong opinion on this. Jaylen Brown is one of the most underrated players in the league. You always see him carrying the load when Jason can. In the finals, he was better than Jason. People might say like they were throwing defense at Jason. They threw Wiggins on Jaylen because Jason wasn't doing all that when Wiggins was on him, so they would put him on Jaylen, and Jaylen was still getting his buckets, so I think he is underrated. Matt?
I think he is also slightly underrated. I only think that, though, is because Jason Tatum has, like, he's, like, the ego of the Celtics right now. He's the next,
exactly.
He's their next superstar, but they don't see that as much as in Jaylen Brown.
They don't respect it.
Exactly, so they're not giving him as much as an opportunity for him to show that.
Exactly.
And even when he does, I feel like he doesn't get the appreciation that he deserves.
No one ever talks about Jaylen Brown in the media. His defense is above Tatum's. His finishing is above Tatum's. His shooting is, like, the same or a little below Tatum's. It's just he doesn't get the credit because he doesn't get the ball.
We're gonna all be unanimous here and all agree that he is definitely underrated just because of what, especially I think Matt made a great point with Jason Tatum's ego on that team, and not necessarily how he flaunts himself and he carries himself, but just how everybody is drawn to him because of his flashy play style and how much he puts up every night, and he's an amazing player. But Jaylen Brown's playmaking and defense is just on another level as opposed to Jason Tatum, and his scoring is you're never going to see less than 15 from him, and you don't always need more than 15 from him. If you ever see him with 15, you'll see him with 8 assists, and you'll see Jason Tatum with 40. So, and when they have a good game, they both got 25. So,
We call him the Swiss Army knife of the team.
I think
He's
so.
what brings that team together a
He
little
really
bit more.
is, yeah.
All right, and then moving on, we're just gonna go to the Cavs. We talked a lot about the Cavs already. We think, well, personally, I think me and Stephen both agree they're underrated as a team because no one talks about them. They were high all year, even though they lost Sexton, they lost Rubio. They were still high. Allen was out for a bit. I feel like, is this one pretty much a consensus that the Cavs are underrated?
Yeah, because they're still a really young team.
Exactly.
Because they were rebuilding ever since, everybody left. Like,
LeBron,
you got
yeah.
LeBron, Tristan Thompson, like
Kyrie, all that.
Kyrie, everybody's gone, so they had to rebuild. They did a pretty decent rebuild
Really
with
good
that.
Definitely.
And they had some pretty good draft picks, I would say.
And I think everyone on that team would be properly rated. Darius Garland was an all-star. Jared Allen was close. Mobley, Rookie of the Year, or right behind Scotty Barnes. I think, does anyone have a name from the Cavs?
I really think the only person that you can talk about here is either Isaac Okoro or Colin Sexton, because with this past year with Darius Garland's just performing at an all-star caliber level, everybody's kind of forgotten. I have definitely forgotten about Colin Sexton and the impact that he brings to the team. And then for Isaac Okoro, if you just look at him play, you can definitely see the impact, not in the box score, but he's one of those players like Javonte Green where everything that you see from him is going to be when you see him play.
And he has so much potential because the defensive side of the ball is great.
Definitely.
His shooting has improved. He's not there to be a scorer. He fits in with the Cavs mentality. Anything else for Isaac Okoro or any other name you want to throw in?
Well, I was going to say Colin Sexton, going back to his. Colin Sexton had a great I think he had a great first season.
Yeah, he averaged like 20, 18, and then the next season followed it up.
Exactly. So, like, I feel like once he gets back from his injury and everything's all right, he'll be great for the team, and he could lead them to maybe even a good playoff run, to a decent playoff run.
I agree. I think they're going to go pretty far this year. And now we're going to kick things over to the West for a bit. We're going to go to the Clippers. The Clippers, I think they're properly rated because everyone knows what they're going to be. Kawhi, Paul George, Norman Powell, John Wall. What else is there to say about them?
I mean, I think just everybody forgets about the depth in that team. As we talked about yesterday, the extraordinary shooting from Luke Kennard, possibly the greatest catch and shoot shooter in the league at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely last year with 60% on the year. But you got Luke Kennard, you got Nick Batum, who is an amazing defender, off ball and on ball. And
Reggie Jackson.
Reggie Jackson, who carried the load offensively when Paul George and Kawhi were both out. And I think he can do that on any given night.
Well, did you see the recent picture of Kawhi Leonard? How big he is?
He's
Definitely.
so. We talked about. He is swole, right?
Yeah,
they call
he's
him the
so
Terminator, but he is looking terrifying.
So I'm seeing that, and I'm thinking like he's gonna be a great post offensively, a great
Mhm.
defender like he always is every single year. So he's gonna be like, I feel like he's gonna be like how he was on the Raptors for that 1 year,
He was
and especially with Paul George with his 3-pointers, and then they're all coming back. They got Reggie Jackson probably off the bench
Off the
for
bench, yeah.
John Wall.
Right.
So they got two good point guards right now, and then who's their shooting guard right now? It's
They can either start Paul George, Norman Powell, or Luke Kennard, or
Yeah.
Reggie. They have
So
a lot.
they
Coffee
have-
too, Terrence Mann.
They got a lot. They got
They
a
got
lot of depth.
options. And I just want to throw it out there. Do you guys think? What are your thoughts on them probably running a lot of small ball five? Because their center is Zubats, who is a good center, but he usually gets low minutes, and they don't have a backup center this year. Do you think they're gonna run like Kawhi, like you said, maybe at the 5, or Robert Covington, Nick Batum? Do you think they're gonna run a lot of small ball, and do you think it's gonna work?
I think it could definitely work for them, especially because how tough they are offensively.
They're really
Right,
gritty,
right.
yeah.
So I feel like that could honestly work for them. Even Kawhi, like Kawhi is not how tall is Kawhi? Like 6'9",
6'7".
6'7".
He's and Paul George is 6'8" at the shooting guard.
So yeah, they got they don't have like the greatest size because they don't really have a center other than Zubac, but like they still have like that sort of size for other players. So as long as they can, like Kawhi can catch rebounds for sure.
Oh yeah,
So
Boardman.
like as long as Boardman
Boardman
gets
gets
paid.
paid.
So like as long as they're catching those rebounds, they should be all right.
We love rebounds.
I think that if Draymond can do it at 6'7", Kawhi can do it at 6'7" at the 5. Considering Kawhi's skill gap between
yeah,
him and
him
Draymond.
and Draymond.
But I think that Kawhi is a really versatile player who can be put at the 5. I don't think we're going to see him at the 5 this year personally. I can definitely see them start signing another center, like mid-season before the season starts even. But I think that they are going to run small ball definitely because they kind of have to.
Yeah.
Zubats is going to play 40 minutes, and because that's the only player above 6'11" on that team. And I do think it'll work just because of the way the league is structured now. You have the Rockets a few years ago in the bubble who
Mhm.
played small ball the entire time, and they made a deep run. And
The Warriors who just won the chip.
the Warriors who just won the chip, their 5th one in the past 10 years. So I mean, small ball works.
It's proven to work. Speaking of the Warriors, let's just kick it over to the other side of California. Overrated, underrated, coming off a championship. They lost some people, but they got Wiseman coming back, Moody coming back. They drafted Baldwin Jr., who is a good shooter in college. He's pretty tall. He fits in well. What do we think, Matt?
Well, I honestly think they're kind of overrated, to be honest. I'm not a big Warriors fan, even though I kind of was rooting for them in the finals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We hate the Celtics.
yeah, we hate the Celtics. So, but like, did you see that they're gonna bench Wiseman probably?
I love Looney. I think he knows his role
But, like-
because Wiseman is young.
I think
Wiseman's
he
young,
should
but
come
he's
off the bench.
but he still needs to like. He was the second overall pick.
Yeah, he needs.
True,
You're saying he needs to
true.
learn to be that starting center.
Yeah, he needs to be the potential that he can
Yeah.
be.
Because his confidence can't be that high right now.
I actually, you know what? You convinced me. I feel like they should start him so he can learn at the beginning of the season, so he can start during the playoffs.
Or at least like even give it like a try or something.
Yeah.
Like, preseason or something like that. They should really push forward for him to be a starter.
Well, I think they're going to definitely alternate because, like, Wiseman, when he was, like, before he was injured in October, November, and early December, in that draft year with LaMelo, I think that he showed his potential because, not every rookie starts off with an amazing year. And he was averaging around 14 and 10, which is, what you wanted from a starting center at that point, especially for a rookie. And I think that they're going to alternate him and Kevon. And I think they're honestly going to have pretty much equal minutes, honestly.
All right, and then overrated, underrated. Let's talk something spicy. Let's talk Klay Thompson coming off
Ooh.
the ACL tear. I think overrated, personally.
I think he's the most overrated player in NBA.
Okay.
In the
Okay.
league.
Okay, we'll
I
skip
think he
you,
is.
Matt.
I don't really think he's that overrated. Like
He's still good.
He's still pretty good. Even like off his ACL tear, he was still putting up some sort of numbers.
Game 6 against the Nuggets, it was Game 6 Clay.
Yeah, it was literally Game 6 Clay. He
Mhm.
has those moments, but the thing is about him that he's so inconsistent about those moments.
Very
Yeah.
consistent.
All right, we're gonna keep it in LA. We're gonna go the Lakers real quick. Overrated, underrated. I'm saying underrated. They picked up a lot of young pieces. They picked up Lonnie Walker. They picked up Juan Toscano Anderson. They're not going for their older players like they did Carmelo. They're trying to go young. They're trying to go fast. They're trying to win while LeBron's there. Stephen?
So I'm gonna put them as underrated because I really believe that if they keep Russ, that he's gonna get it together this season. I think that with all this time that he's had in the off season to get to know his team a little more, even though he already had that year there, but what's a year? I think that the chemistry that he's building there, I think that he's really gonna match well with the team this year, and he knows his role because he doesn't have to necessarily get triple doubles every night because of the power that team has in the paint occasionally. With LeBron even playing at the 5 sometimes when AD is not there.
Crazy.
But I really think that if Russ recognizes his role better, that he can carry that team in a much bigger way than he did last year. So I'm going to say underrated.
I don't know. I'm conflicted about this one because as much as I want to believe that like Russ will turn himself around and will be like the player that he will, I feel like this is like what is his second year now, not proving himself the player that he should be, like the prime OKC Russ he should be. But like they still have some great pieces. Of course, LeBron as one of them.
Mhm.
They have
AD.
They have AD, of course, but I mean AD he could never know. He could get
Day-to-day
injured.
Davis. Yeah.
Right.
He could get injured. So like it's kind of conflicted here. If they can keep a healthy team, they can obviously go very, very far.
Yeah.
But if their team just keeps getting injured and Russ just is very off and just keeps breaking everything, they're not going to go far at all.
All right, and then I think there's some that we can skip, like the Spurs. They're gonna be bad. Probably
Yeah.
trade some people.
No way.
The Spurs,
They need to
they're gonna be
rebuild.
bad. Probably trade some people. The Rockets, they might surprise, win a few games, but we know they're gonna suck.
Mm-hmm.
They're young. OKC, we know how they're gonna be young. They're probably gonna suck.
I still have a little bit of hope for them.
Me too.
Yeah, I know. Like
They're
they
young
might
core.
sneak up there,
Yeah,
but
they
it's
might-
not much to talk
I can
about. We
see
know
that.
what they
I
are.
see
Yeah.
10-11 seed.
I was
Not
gonna say
like
ninth.
bottom.
I was gonna say like ninth. Like
They could sneak
borderline.
into that playing
They
game.
could get the
Yeah.
plan.
And then the Jazz, you don't really know what to talk about the Jazz because Donovan Mitchell might be going to the Knicks.
Let's
Right.
hope.
So we have no clue what that team is. So I feel like we can't really speak on it right now.
And I feel
Yeah.
like, the Trailblazers is also a team that you can throw up there because a lot of people just, since it was so long ago, one of the earliest moves of the offseason, that people just forget that Jeremy Grant is on that team now
Mhm.
and how little they had to give up for him, which is
Crazy.
virtually nothing. So they still have that. It's not really a big three, but that can develop into a big three with him, Dame, and Nurkic because Nurkic is just a solid double-double generator every night. He's a regular Andre Drummond, and I think that
That's an underrated
that
team
team
right
is
there.
definitely an
That's an
underrated team.
underrated.
But you also have to realize that they don't have CJ McCollum
You
anymore.
Yeah. And you don't know what you're gonna get from Anthony Simon
because you only really saw him show out.
you
when
saw
there
him
were
by
injuries.
himself. You didn't see him with Dame.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's an underrated but also hard to gauge team because we don't know what we're getting with Jeremy.
Agreed.
Well, we've seen Jeremy play with Westbrook. We've seen him play with Stars. So underrated.
That's it.
Oh,
Underrated.
yeah.
And then the Kings. The Kings are another one of those teams that are gonna be probably fun with Sabonis, with De'Aaron Fox. They got Malik Monk. You don't know what's gonna go over with Sacramento with Malik Monk.
Yeah,
Exactly.
never know.
But
Could be another criminal charge, but you don't know yet.
I don't know. I don't feel like this team fits well together. They traded for Kevin
Seems
Huerter.
random, right?
They got Dante DiVincenzo. They have so many Davion Mitchell. They have so many parts. They got Keegan Murray that they drafted.
but they just haven't seemed to be able to put it together yet.
Yeah, I don't think they'll put it together either. People say they might sneak up. I'm saying overrated in that regards.
And I think it's the same with the Pacers in that regard because those teams, they were basically the same after that trade for Tyrese and Sabonis, that swap. They basically had the same record after that trade.
Yeah.
In the second half of the season, so I think that they're at like the same level now.
So then the Suns. The Suns were in the finals 2 years ago. Now they fell off. Chris Paul fell off. They lost some people. DeAndre Ayton. We don't know how he's gonna feel. We don't know if he might demand a trade. We don't know what's going on in DeAndre Ayton's head. No one does but DeAndre. So I'm saying a little overrated because people think they could come back. I don't think they can. I think they might be a first round exit this year.
I think it's also overrated because I really just can't see DeAndre
Ayton.
Thank you. Jeez, I can't see Ayton having an All-Star year this year with how he just he saw that
He wasn't wanted.
video of him signing that contract. He was just not very happy in that video, man. He was just signing his life away because he wasn't wanted there. I think he should feel disrespected, and I can't see him breaking out this year again.
I don't know because I feel like I like Devin Booker as a player. I feel like he can really bring the team together. And Chris Paul, he's a great
He's a
point
good
guard.
leader.
He's a good
great
leader.
point
He's a
guard.
veteran. He's been to team. He's led his team before, and I feel like he can lead his team this year too. So and even though they didn't like how they did DeAndre Ayton, how he signed
did
the
their-
thing and then they matched it.
Right.
It's kind of weird, but I feel like they could kind of fix that. Rebuild their chemistry. And
If anyone can
make
fix it,
something
it's
about
Chris Paul being thirsty for a ring.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we're forgetting about McCall Bridges too.
Yeah, he's
Keep
good, and every year he's been improving his offense. If we just see a little jump at that, maybe we don't need anything from DeAndre. But an underrated loss was they lost JaVale McGee.
Definitely.
Their backup center is Bismack Biyombo, who's 6'8", 6'9". Not that good. I don't know what to really expect from them. Maybe they'll play some small ball with Cam Johnson. Let's talk about the people that beat them, the Mavericks, the people that got JaVale McGee.
Underrated.
Yeah,
Nobody
underrated.
remembers Christian Wood.
Everyone forgets. They lost Jalen Brunson to the Knicks, but that's more Luka possessions.
He needed
that's,
a big.
that's pick and roll with Wood. The rest of the league is going to get the Wood.
Yeah, and with Luka, Luka's a star player,
Yeah.
and that's all I gotta add. Luka's just a great star player.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's always improving.
I think that he can fit with any player on that team, really. So I think he's one player. He's like a Chris Paul, where obviously his defense isn't there, but he can really, he can really just fit with any player there.
You think the Wood will fit? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
This season?
Yeah.
Wood will fit?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's kick it over to another foreign, all-star, kind of young player. Back to back. Are you okay? Let's kick it over to the
chilling.
Nuggets with Nikola Jokic. They're getting Jamal Murray back. They're getting Michael Porter Jr. back. They lost to Michael Green, but who cares, you know?
I mean,
Aaron Gordon, we never know what we're going to get from Aaron Gordon. I feel like we always expect something from him. Loved him in Uncle Drew, but he's not that good of a basketball player.
he's great at his dunks though.
His dunks are amazing. But as a team, as a whole, overrated, underrated, I'm going to say underrated. 2-time MVP. They're 2 max contract players coming back.
Exactly.
I think that Jokic, now that he had this time to develop without Jamal Murray, I really don't know how well he would have been if Jamal Murray never got injured, if he would have gone to this level or not. But I think that now that he knows what he can be, given that he's a 2-time MVP, I think that him and Jamal Murray are both going to have a lot more faith in him, and that he's going to be able to carry that team even more, even better now that they all that help. And so I think they can make a deep playoffs run. Not the finals, definitely not the finals, but I think they can make a deep playoff run.
I feel like since Jamal Murray is finally off his Instagram story, and
It's definitely good.
so he's finally off all that, and
He's focused. He's focused on.
he's focused really on
He's
his
focused
game
on
right
ball.
He's locked
Yeah.
in.
He's really
Exactly.
locked in right now. He's about to come off his he's about to come off his injury right
Yeah.
now. So and his injury was
Awesome.
really impactful. So you never know how that can impact a player.
Yeah.
So I feel like once he comes back and if he's just as good as he is, as he was before, they can make a great
They can
playoff
make a
run,
great playoff.
just
push.
like they did in the bubble.
Speaking of great playoff pushes, I think we only have a couple West teams left. The Grizzlies, John Moran, he keeps improving, but he's gonna break his legs landing one day.
I
So
think they're overrated.
they lost to Anthony Melton. Jaren's gonna be injured till January, which I think people forget
Forgot
about.
that.
So
Yeah.
I say I agree, overrated. You never know what's gonna happen with them. Dylan Brooks might get arrested for punching someone.
I feel like it might be
that's
overrated too.
definitely-
I don't really pay attention
overrated.
to the Grizzlies like that though. So
I think we definitely established the Pelicans as an underrated team. In
Zion comes back.
Previous
comes
video.
back, but
Brandon
you see,
Ingram,
he looks pretty
CJ
big now.
He
Zion,
looks He
He
looks
looks
big,
pretty
but he
healthy.
looks muscular.
Yeah, like
Although
he looks
he
good.
may not be able to play with that contract clause.
Yeah, they have a
His
contract clause.
body, I don't know if you saw
If
that,
his
but
body fat gets over a certain percentage,
it's his body fat and his body weight. If they add up to more than 295 pounds, then he's going to be benched until he loses that weight. So
and
I
he's
think
not gonna
that
get paid either.
I think that he looks like he's fit for that. He does not look 300 pounds, because his body fat cannot be that much, because he
And
still
he-
looks fit. I've seen videos of him running. He looks pretty fit, so I believe in him.
Yeah, I think he adds a great addition to the team, and with Brandon Ingram, C.J. McCollum, Drew Holiday too. Oh no, he's not.
No,
he's
no,
Bucks.
no, no.
He's on the Bucks. I forgot. And they're just they're just a pretty good team. And even when he was playing as a rookie, averaging 23.
He was insane. He was averaging somewhere in the 20s as a rookie.
Yeah.
Exactly. Even though he didn't play that many games,
26,
if he kept playing, he would have definitely averaged way over 20 or about 20.
He is not Greg Oden.
Yeah.
People say he's Greg
People
Oden.
say he's a bust.
He is not Greg Oden.
He is
Greg
not.
Oden never averaged 27 in his rookie season over 60 games.
And I think we all seen that clip where he just walks up, windmills it. That gave me a
Yeah.
lot of confidence.
Yeah.
That. And then speaking of Drew Holiday, the Bucks 2 years ago,
Keep it properly
champions,
rated.
properly rated. We
Keep
didn't
it
see Chris
properly
Middleton last playoffs because he was injured. They still have Giannis, Chris, Drew.
Yeah,
Brook
they still have their MVP. They're
They
chilling.
kept their core really. They
They
kept
really
their team.
because that duo of Chris Middleton and Giannis is it's really just Clay and Curry in the East. That's a duo that's been there for almost 10 years now, and the relationship that they built, I don't think that's something that's gonna
It's
break
the
up.
chemistry, like we were
Yeah.
talking about before. Chemistry,
Mhm.
like the Suns.
Yeah.
They're the opposite of the Suns, and that's why they probably won that championship.
Definitely, I agree.
And then the Hornets, as much as it pains me to say, I think losing Miles Bridges to what he did,
I don't
losing
even think that they're overrated. I think that they're just bad.
yeah, I think they're bad, and everyone knows that. So properly rated.
Properly rated.
Yeah,
Properly rated.
a few criminals,
Just a couple. We've only had like 4, and then the Heat. Jimmy Butler, another year. Jimmy Butler. Kyle Lowry's a year older, but a little slimmer. Tyler Harrow's a little mad. They lost PJ Tucker.
I feel like
I
but
don't
is
know, this
PJ
one's
Tucker
hard.
even that much of a loss?
He was put.
I think he is, honestly.
They have such good defenders that could fill those holes.
I feel like he was always guarding someone whenever I watched the game. Like, he was always the on-ball defender.
I know.
Obviously, that's not true, but it's just one of those things that when you watch a game, you say,
see
you
PJ
always see him. He's always makes himself known. And that was the same when he was on the Rockets in that bubble run, where he was such a, he was so important there. And that was the same in Milwaukee. It's the same on every team that he's been on. Even though he's like 36, 37, he still brings that impact to the game that you wouldn't expect him to still have, because his hustle is just still there at such an old age, and it's really just impressive.
I think because that they lost PJ Tucker, Jimmy Butler will have to play more defense, and because he's playing more, he's wasting more energy. I think they'll be worse because of the load he'll have to carry.
You don't think that Bam is going to be able to make that jump? You don't think that he's going to be top 3 in decoy this
But
year?
then who's guarding the center? That's what I see. Like if you have someone like LeBron, yeah, you could have put Bam on him and then put
Yeah.
PJ in the paint. But now you got to put Jimmy on
You're
him.
going to put Jimmy on LeBron
Yeah.
if you have that matchup. Because you want to have AD on, yeah.
But what they lack in defense, they probably make up in offense
Yeah,
too.
Tyler Harrow,
Exactly.
Jimmy Butler.
You have those
And then
bench
Tyler
options.
Tyler
Max
Harrow was
Strus,
coming off the bench last year,
Yeah.
and he was averaging how much? Like 20?
20,
20.
Yeah.
And you still have Duncan Robinson, who's a lethal shooter. Whatever minutes
if they
he gets,
utilize him.
hopefully he's utilized, and hopefully he makes something of those minutes. But I don't know. Orlando, they're like in that OKC Houston bit. They'll probably be bad. They'll be fun. Wendell Carter will have a breakout season, hopefully.
Definitely, I agree.
The Hawks, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, John Collins, Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter. But
I
then
think
their
they're
bench
definitely-
is
I
a
think
little
they're underrated.
lackluster.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the same with Toronto, Like,
Yeah.
they have a lot of good starting options. You got Fred, you got Scotty, you got Pascal, and I think that trio can really develop into being something that's, going to be talked about.
Two
in the NBA.
underrated teams in the East right there, I think.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
got
I
those
definitely
fours
agree.
with Pascal and John
Mhm.
Collins who can rim run, who can pop. They got their stars semi with Trae Young and DeJounte, and they got OG and they got Scotty Barnes. They're kind of
Mhm.
like yin and yang a bit.
And I
forwards
still
and
think
bigs.
that you have to talk about Washington a little bit here, because like with Bradley Beal still like performing at a near MVP level and a score and receiving. Did he receive that scoring title? No, he didn't, right? Because it was with this battle with Steph when Steph like went off in February or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So he was almost a scoring leader
30
at like 32, 33 years old, and you have Kuzma there too, who was so effective really in that when Bradley Beal was injured, and seeing that development with him over there in Washington, I really think that him and Bradley Beal can develop something special there. And I think a lot of people forget that you have Tingus Pingus over there. You got a 7'4" unicorn over there that can really bring a lot to the game.
You also have the what was the one guy, Rui
Hachimura?
Rui
Yeah,
Hachimura.
Rui
He was
Danny
injured for
Avdia.
part of the season, but he's always been that freak athlete, that good scorer. But I want to know insider opinion, Matt, as a Knicks fan, is Tingus Pingus actually gonna be really helpful to Washington? Do you think?
Personally, no, because his prime was on the Knicks.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And you see what he did on Dallas. Like he wasn't.
He's sort of a non-factor.
wasn't
He's
in
just
the
like
next
he's
level.
just kind of like a role player.
He's
Like,
just a catch and shoot guy. You got a 7'4" catch and shoot guy. You're paying max money.
yeah. He's definitely not worth the money he's getting paid. Like if he was playing like his Knicks caliber, like prime Knicks caliber, when he was an all-star, then yeah, like that's worth it. But like now, it's really not. Unless he turns himself around in some way, which I doubt it.
Yeah.
He's not worth the money.
And then we're gonna end today's episode on the Knicks because that's Matt's team. We love Kevin Knox around here, so we're gonna end it on the Knicks, just in honor of the guest episode. They got R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle. They signed Jalen Brunson to a huge contract. They lost Taj Gibson and Nerlens Noel, but Jericho Sims was looking good. Quentin Grimes is looking good.
You got Quickly, that's also looking pretty
Quickly.
good.
Yeah.
I would say that they're an underrated team.
Underrated team for sure.
I think
would-
underrated too, but I don't know, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was just gonna say, I went to 2 Knicks games this year in MSG, and one thing that I just saw was the amount of energy that the younger players bring to that bench. You could hear from the stands, you could hear players like Quickly and Grimes screaming on the bench because they just bring that energy. Even as young players, they have the confidence on that team to, really feel like they're a part of the team and not just youngsters. Because if you look at that team, you have people like Derrick Rose, who's really one of the only veterans on that team, and Julius Randle, who just inconsistent, but you have to have some faith in him, and I think that they're an underrated team.
I think that they also are underrated, even though that like losing Nerlens Noel, I feel like is a big hit to
Yeah,
us.
that's a big hit. That's
Definitely.
an underrated hit.
Yeah, so like
Still got Mitchell.
we still, of course, we still have Mitchell Robinson. We just like re-signed him. Or we-
Off-season KD. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and then you never know, we can get Mitchell Robinson. But then again, we also paid way too much for Jalen Brunson. Even
Yeah.
though he's a pretty decent player,
Is
he's
yeah.
just getting paid way
Yeah.
too much.
He's not with the money, you think?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think he'll be averaging maybe 20 points with us.
Yeah.
Because I
Which-
feel like when he went off, it was the same with our conversation with Anthony.
No one else was there.
Exactly. Like,
No one else was
Doncic, Luka was injured, and you only started to notice Jalen Brunson. You would only see him in Sports Center, Bleacher Report, ESPN. You would only see those headlines when Luka was injured. So I do not have that much faith in him, but I still think he's going to be able to average around 23, 24 for the team.
I think the youngsters will really pull it together. I think they'll pull like the Julius Randles, the Derrick Rose. They'll see how involved they are.
I agree.
They'll have faith in them.
I agree.
Julius Randle will lock in. RJ will take that passing leap. Jalen Brunson will take that scoring leap. And I think the Knicks could make potentially an 8th seed because you have so many teams like the Hornets that were falling, the Wizards.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Mhm.
I think they could take that leap, and I think they could make that 8th seed.
And you know how Julius Randle is, how he likes to play one. He likes to play one good season, then bad
Yeah.
season.
This
could
is
be
his good
This
season.
is his good season.
This is his MVP
This
season.
is
Most
his
pattern.
MVP run.
The pattern will not be broken.
Exactly. This is a good season.
All right, and with that concludes our 3rd episode of The Rebound. Thank you for watching.